Hi, welcome back to Let's Build. Well, we'll start with a quick garage tour of the cars we're going to build, and then everything is chapter marked, so you don't have to watch everything. But this follows on for two build requests to build two cars of Rowan Atkinson's, although I have decided to add a third, not strictly Rowan's car, but Mr. Bean's car, Mr. Bean's Mini, which has been seen in a short before, but has not been seen anywhere else. And I think all of them have come out rather well, so we'll deal with them one at a time. We're going to start with Rowan Atkinson's Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I'm going to follow the same format for each video, so that is, we'll have a look at the car first, then we'll drive it a bit, then we'll build it, and then rinse and repeat. Starting off then with Rowan Atkinson's Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Now, this is a classic British Grand Touring car, but, and I've made no secret of this, I don't think it's very well represented in this game, because Rockstar did a very artful mix of Jensen Interceptor and Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I'll link a video below where I compare this car to photographs of both those real world cars, so you can get more of an idea which bits come from which car. But in summary, whichever car I build it as, I end up seeing the other one in there. Anyway, back to the real car. It was a left-hand drive car which Rowan Atkinson bought in the 80s, had it converted to right-hand drive. He owned it for a while, it stayed right-hand drive for 20 years, and then it went back into ownership abroad and was converted back to the correct standard that it was built, which is a left-hand drive car. It's also a very fine-looking V8 Vantage. I love the combination of the colour on the wheels, that lovely light interior which we can do in game mixed with the dark red metallic exterior. It looks really fine, so let's see if we can get this built. Incidentally, the car is discontinued, but if you're on PC and you want one of these, I can sell this one to you at one of our car meets, which is every 2 weeks. Anyway, armour and performance parts are of course completely up to you, same with the bulletproof tyres. So moving down to the more important parts, we start with the bumpers. On the front bumper, we want the classic front bumper, although the overriders are a bit much, but otherwise it's close. Stock bumper on the rear of the car. For the hood, the American hood is the closest to the real one. The bulge is a little bit big and defined, but overall it's the easiest. We don't want any headlight covers. Leave the lights as the yellowy stock lights I would suggest, maybe the car meet ones. We don't need a livery, and we want stock primary paint for the mirrors. Now for the respray, I think you could do quite well with a stock GTA colour, but I did get a bit closer with this crew colour, so I preferred to use that instead. True colour also goes onto the secondary, and the pearlescent is a sunset red, and the reason is there's a bit of orange in sunset red, and Rowan's car seemed to reflect a bit orange to me on a lot of the photos that I saw. We can of course try a few other reds, so leaving the crew red on the hood here, we can look at other ones such as Cabernet red, and you look how close Cabernet red actually is to that crew red. There's not much in it, so if you don't want to do the crew colour, try something like Cabernet red, probably still with the sunset red pearl. Cream on the inside, and that looks really good. It's a really nice interior on this car. Stock roof, stock skirts, they're really close again. The spoiler, we don't want one. That little kickback is like the spoiler on the real car. For suspension, you can have lowered or stock. It's hard to say which. I often go one lower than it needs to be. On the wheels, now I spent hours on the wheels. This is a very truncated build part, but in the end I went on to the Street Wheels Cup Champion. Now they are a different shape because the real wheel does not have the gaps between those 5 spokes, it's more of a recess, but otherwise the bulk of the wheel, the chrome etc. does match, and I feel this is the closest to the real wheel. There's no tinted windows, so that completes the build of our first car. So now on to Mr. Bean's Mini. Mr. Bean, of course, played by Rowan Atkinson. This is a very simple build. The pièce de résistance on this build is the crew colour, which is something I made up. Car looking a little yellowy here, of course, in this lower sun. You'll see it looking slightly different in the workshop. Nowhere, not even on the best builds I could find on YouTube, did anybody remotely have the right colour. So I spent a long time, a lot of trial and error, and I found a colour which I felt in most of the in-game lights looked close to the real colour in most real-world lights. It's incredibly close. Otherwise, of course, this is an okay little car to drive. I don't even think it's as much fun as I've somehow managed to portray in these cinematics. It's not a car I bought to drive. It's a car I bought to display, and this is one of the few cars remaining in my TV and movie collection, which is now just 9 cars. I don't really do them anymore, but this one I really love. So let's get it built. Whoops. Go on to Mr. Bean's car. Of course, performance, armour, etc. up to you. Onto the bodywork, and that's a simple choice. We want to leave it as none. The bumpers, front bumper stock, rear bumper stock. I told you it's a pretty easy build. The chassis is stock. The exhaust is stock. The fenders are stock. The grille is stock. The hood, well, here's the first change. We'll take the secondary hood on the car. Do leave the lights as the nice yellowy old lights, or the car meet ones perhaps. I think yellowy would have been better. For the plate, SLW287R I've made as a special plate. I didn't replicate the other plates on the other 2 cars, but I did on this one because this is a car I like to keep. Onto the respray. Primary colour, of course, is the crew paint. The hex is showing here. There's no pearl required, and it looks so good. It just mixes the yellow and the green perfectly. You can't do this. I'm not even going to try to give you an alternative, really, with GTA paints. Lime green is way too green, and something like dew yellow is just too bright and too yellow. So I think this is a crew colour only car, to be honest. Secondary is matte black, and as we have no pearl, it won't be affected. Trim one of the dark colours like black steel would work really nicely. The roof is stock, the skirts are stock, and the spoiler is none. Suspension, I'm on lowered. You could also get away with stock. Either one would be absolutely fine. On the wheels, there's only really one choice here. They come out a little bit wider than the real ones, but the classic rod in chrome, because it would have been chrome hubcaps for real, although the rest of the wheel was actually steel. We don't have any tints on the windows. We can't put an armchair on the roof, so that completes that build. Moving on now to Rowan Atkinson's McLaren F1. This is perhaps the only F1 that very famously has been crashed twice, but as CNBC said, still sold for the equivalent of over $12 million despite the crashes. I know that the crash in Cambridgeshire cost around $900,000 on the insurance payout, so I can't imagine his premiums were that cheap. Anyway, it's quite a distinctive car in a very, very dark sort of wine red colour, and of course it's great fun to drive. I love this in the game, so let's see how to build it. Of course, performance is up to you, but I would tend to take it to the max but leave out the turbo so we don't have turbo noises on this naturally aspirated V12. The bumpers front and back are the stock option. The exhaust is also stock. Hood catch is none. Headlight covers, this is important. The primary top cover works here. And I think for most F1s, it's a stock hood. Also staying stock with the mirrors. The plate, you could match Rowan's plate if you desire. I haven't. For the rear cover, the LM cover works here as well as it does on the LM copies if you're making those. Now I know for the respray, if I didn't use a crew colour you'd be so disappointed. So I've used a crew colour, but I do have an alternative. Anyway, the crew colour gives this nice, very dark red, and I think the Cabernet Red Pearl works about the best here. As always, feel free to experiment, but it gets pretty close, works well in the sunshine. But what if you didn't want to do a crew colour? Well, I think if you just go down to metallic and select something like the wine red, then that is a dark red, and you know that's not a million miles off, and it would save a whole load of trouble. You may want to vary the pearlescence slightly, but this gets ever so close. I've seen slightly conflicting evidence for the interior on photos I've seen, but overall dark red seems to be one of the themes I definitely saw in there. And if you pick something like a Cabernet Red, it does put a lot of detailing in there, dark red, so that's what I've gone for. The skirt is stock, the spoiler is stock, and guess what? Even the wheels are stock, so that's pretty much the theme of this car, almost all stock parts. Don't forget the windows, they are definitely tinted on the real one. I went for a light smoke, and that completes the build. The good news is this car is really great to drive. Now I've done a full review of the car, done up in fact as one of the papaya orange LMs, so I'll link that down below. And I covered most things in the review. What I think I forgot to mention was that the car has an interior that's very much stolen from the original, and they didn't give it the central seating position, but they did take a lot of the instrument cluster and the area around the gear lever, etc. So really great car, well worth owning. And although it's sadly discontinued, you will find so many people have one of these, it won't be hard to buy it at some form of car meetup for your particular console, or even just randomly in the car meet. I really love mine. I'm not sure whether I'll keep it as Rowan Atkinson's car. Maybe if I make more Cars of the Stars I will do just that. I'll possibly put it back to the LM because it is very striking in that particular orange. Anyway, highly recommended, get hold of it however you can. Hope you've enjoyed this video with the 3 builds. I doubt you managed to watch all 3, but if you did, well done, I appreciate that. I've got quite a few more requests still to fulfill, but don't worry, they are all noted down and many of them are in the partway done stage. I'll get those out as soon as I can for you. As soon as this channel went monetized, which is for charity, I specifically requested no mid-roll ads, and as this one is well over 8 minutes long, can you let me know down below, did they put a mid-roll ad in, because I'm really hoping that they didn't. Other than that, a like would be really appreciated, a sub if you like real cars in GTA, and as always, thank you so much for watching.